9 years ago, Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched the Startup India initiative, which was seen as a bold step in transforming India into a global hub for entrepreneurship. Welcome to our weekly Indian startup news show here at Backstage with Millionaires. I'm Caleb Friesen, your host, and today I'm here to dive into how Startup India has shaped the Indian startup ecosystem. So when Startup India began in January of 2016, India had just 500 registered startups under DPIIT. Today, though, that number has grown to over 1.59 lakh startups, and these startups are eligible for benefits under the initiative ranging from tax exemptions to easier compliance norms. But it's not just about the number of startups. Over the past 9 years, Indian startups have raised an incredible $155 billion in funding. 2022 alone saw over $25 billion flow into the ecosystem, and these startups have also created 16 lakh jobs. But let's also talk about the unicorns for a second. It's a controversial topic, but back in 2015, India had less than 10 unicorns. Today, the country has over 100. That's a 10x jump in 9 years. But the real game changer here has been innovation, of course. In 2014, India was granting only 6,000 patents, but fast forward to 2024, and the number has shot up to 1 lakh patents. That's a 16-fold increase, and that's innovation that's being recognized globally. India has climbed from 81st in 2015 to 39th in 2024 in the Global Innovation Index. Okay, so now let's talk about some real-world impact. Back in 2015, India's e-commerce market was just starting out. It was worth about $14 billion at the time, and online shopping was mostly limited to Tier 1 cities. But today, the market has grown to over $100 billion, and companies like Flipkart, Swiggy, Meesho, and Zomato are now reaching customers in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, which is something that really wouldn't have been possible without affordable internet from Jio. It's easy to assume that Indian startups were just copying the West, and sure, in the beginning, many of them were, but that's also changed. Startups like Meesho and Dealshare are solving problems specific to India, especially in smaller towns. And let's not forget quick commerce. No other country has cracked it the way that India has. Blinkit, Swiggy, Instamart, and Zepto are building models that are profitable or on their way to becoming profitable, while global players like DoorDash couldn't make it work. Now, let's not forget about fintech. UPI changed the game for digital payments in India, and it was startups like PhonePe that made it accessible to everybody. Just last month, PhonePe processed almost 8 billion UPI transactions. That's nearly half the market in terms of value. And then another industry I want to talk about here is space tech. So Indian space tech startups are doing incredible things. Skyroot, Aerospace, and Agnikul launched India's first privately built rockets, while Pixxel secured a $476 million contract from NASA. And the next wave of Indian space startups is already working on ambitious projects like space cities and reusable rockets. And so a lot of this is thanks to the government of India abolishing the angel tax and making it easier for Indian startups to register themselves in India. And it's estimated that 90% of Indian unicorns domiciled abroad are planning to get back to India in the next couple of years. All right, next up, at Backstage with Millionaires, we've been dedicated to empowering entrepreneurs for now over 6 years. It's been a long time since we started this YouTube channel, recording the first videos back in December of 2018 and then publishing our first video on January 1st of 2019. And during this journey, we've observed a significant gap between service providers and service seekers in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And a major reason behind this gap is the lack of trust in service providers. And one of the first challenges that entrepreneurs face is finding reliable partners to register their companies or manage their legal and financial needs. And so to address this gap and add value to the ecosystem, we are excited to announce the launch of a platform designed to help entrepreneurs register their businesses and handle financial and legal compliances effortlessly. We've assembled a team of highly qualified and experienced CAs and lawyers who are equipped to assist your business from its very inception. Whether you're looking for company registration, regulatory compliances, Startup India registration, MSME registration, GST registration and filing, founders and shareholders agreements, legal documentation for fundraising, we've got you covered. And so if you're an entrepreneur in need of any of these services, simply fill out the Google form link down below with a couple of details about your requirements, and our team will get in touch with you at the earliest. So let's work together to make your entrepreneurial journey smoother and more successful. All right, next up in the news, PhonePe is making its move into quick commerce with its platform, Pincode. The company had exited ONDC last year, and now it's pivoting to focus on 10-minute grocery delivery. And according to an ET report, this makes PhonePe the first payments company to venture into its own quick commerce business. And this shift might also tie into their plans for an IPO in 2026. Diversifying their business could position them more attractively to investors ahead of their public offering, but unlike platforms like Zepto and Blinkit, which rely on building their own dark stores for quick commerce, Pincode is taking a different approach, kind of like GeoMart. Pincode is partnering with Kirana stores, local mom and pop shops to fulfill orders, and deliveries are being handled through a mix of PhonePe's delivery fleet and third-party logistics partners like Shadowfax. So currently Pincode is only operating in between 10 to 15% of areas in 6 major cities, but their plan is to expand this coverage to 25% in the coming weeks. And the big question here is whether this partnership-driven approach will prove more effective than the dark store model that has dominated quick commerce so far. All right, next up in the news, it looks like Dunzo is finally done. As of January 13th, its app and website have completely stopped functioning. This collapse comes just a day after reports surfaced that Kabir Biswas, Dunzo's last remaining co-founder, resigned to join Flipkart's quick commerce venture Minutes, and the company is reportedly drowning in debt, owing between 400 and 500 crore rupees to employees and vendors. Over 400 employees have been left unpaid, with many owed at least 1 lakh rupees each. And the frustration reached a tipping point when former employees filed a police complaint in Bengaluru accusing Kabir of fraud. They allege he failed to pay salaries and allowances despite repeated assurances, and Kabir, who has been summoned by the police, has yet to appear. Dunzo has no leadership now, no operational platform, and no clear path forward. The big question now is, with Dunzo's operations at a standstill and key players jumping ship, is there anyone left to fix this mess and make sure that people get paid? All right, next up in the news, Swiggy has made an unexpected move by stepping into the world of sports. They've launched a new subsidiary called Swiggy Sports Private Limited, which has been officially approved by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. And Swiggy Sports is planning to cover all aspects of a sport, including talent development, event organization, facility management, and even broadcasting and sponsorship deals across various sports. For now, their only confirmed venture is owning Team Mumbai in the World Pickleball League. And Swiggy's food marketplace CEO, Rohit Kapoor, has downplayed the initiative, calling it a limited play, but the extensive scope in their regulatory filing suggests that there's a bigger game plan in the works. And this move, of course, comes at a time when Swiggy is looking to diversify beyond food delivery, particularly as their rivalry with Zomato is heating up. And Zomato has already expanded into lifestyle services by launching District, and they also acquired Paytm's ticketing business for over 2,000 crore rupees. Swiggy Sports might be the company's gateway into India's booming sports market, and while pickleball is their starting point, the scale of their ambitions hints that this could be the beginning of something much bigger for Swiggy and also potentially for the sports industry. All right, next up in the news, Pixxel and Digantara have successfully launched their satellites aboard SpaceX's Transporter 12 mission. Pixxel sent 3 hyperspectral imaging satellites into orbit, adding to their Firefly constellation, and these satellites are designed to provide real-time insights into changes in Earth's ecosystems, offering critical data for agriculture, climate monitoring, and disaster management. Meanwhile, Digantara launched their SCOT satellite, short for Space Camera for Object Tracking, and it will monitor space debris as small as 5 centimeters in low Earth orbit. All right, now let's move to the funding news segment for today's video. This week, Indian startups raised a total of $200 million, which is quite a bit higher than last week's $104 million, and it's also moving above the trend line after 4 weeks below the trend line. So now let's take a look at some of the companies that raised funds this week. The first one I want to talk about here is Mumbai-based D2C skincare brand Foxtail. Foxtail has raised $30 million, and then following that, we have a Pune-based agri-tech startup called Ecosyn. This company is helping farmers with their irrigation and storage problems using solar technology, and their flagship product, EcoFrost, is a solar-powered cold storage unit, while Ecotron is their solar-powered water pump controller, and they've raised $23 million in debt. After that, we have a Bengaluru-based startup called Sarla Aviation. They're trying to build electric flying taxis, and the company was started by 3 people who have already worked with companies that were building electric flying taxis. In fact, one of the co-founders, Adrian Schmidt, left his home country to build Sarla Aviation right in Bengaluru. And a year ago, Sarla Aviation was just a dream, but today they're showcasing their prototype to the world at Bharat Mobility Global Expo 2025 in Delhi. And this company has raised $10 million in their Series A round. Next, we have Pune-based biotech startup Zero Circle, and they're using seaweed to create an eco-friendly and biodegradable packaging material that can replace replace plastic. And they've raised $2 to $3 million to make this happen. Following that, we have Nagpur-based cancer diagnostic solutions provider Early Sign, and they've developed an oral cancer detection kit that can detect cancer even before it's developed into a tumor. Unlike biopsies, which are painful and expensive, Early Sign uses just saliva to make their cancer detection processes non-invasive, painless, and very quick, and they raised $1.85 million in their pre-series A round. And then finally, we have a Bengaluru-based startup called Orbit-Aid Aerospace, and right now, every time a satellite runs out of fuel, it essentially becomes space junk. But Orbit-Aid is developing a technology that can refuel these satellites while they're still in space, thereby extending their life and preventing them from becoming space junk. And they've raised $1.5 million in their pre-seed round to do just that. All right, that is all the startup news that I have for you all this week. But before I let you go, do check out the video that we recently made where we covered the aftermath of a bunch of Shark Tank India Season 1 startups to find out how they're doing today in 2025. I really think that you'll enjoy it. But either way, I'm Caleb Friesen, and this has been Backstage with Millionaires. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.